Hello, I'm Nathaniel Meeks, and I am a student at Frisco High School. And because I am enrolled in challenging courses, I have a lazy brain. Grades and tests have taught me that a 70% of a job complete is adequate. But the real world is far different. Life only returns what is invested in it, and often less. In the words of Andre A. Jackson, difficult things take a long time, impossible things a little longer. This year, I hope to do something impossible, not for the sake of impossibility, but in order to revolutionize something ordinary. I chose to participate in the ISM program because it offers an incredible chance to get real-world experience in a career that you would never get in a classroom setting. It is my dream to one day work in Hollywood to produce music for television and film, so I chose film and composition as my subject. The Hollywood industry is extremely competitive and fickle. In order to get started in the Hollywood industry, you have to start young. So my hope is to someday go to USC or another Los Angeles school so that I can get ingrained into the entire feel of the Los Angeles, to get to know people and to have better connections. My desire is to someday collaborate with musicians and filmmakers to tell a story that affects people in a positive way, and to expose the impossibility of an ordinary world through music. Overall, the incorporation of music in film has not changed much. It began as a crutch for silent films. When there were actions and facial expressions, the music was used to dramatize the actions, sort of create more emotion in the plot. It eventually evolved in the 1930s when talkies came about, and that's when they started incorporating the recorded sound with the moving celluloid pictures. And since then, it's stayed relatively the same, except nowadays people can easily recognize iconic film scores because film scores have become more popular with the rise of mobile and digital music. But overall, the philosophy behind film music remains the same: to enhance the story of the film and the actions of the actors. Composers require a very specific skill set. They must be able to be good at music theory and music notation. They also have to know how to compose for multiple instruments. Each instrument has its own limitations, and so it's good that the composer knows them, because you can't compose for a pianist with 4 hands because pianists only have 2 hands. They can only play a maximum of 10 notes at a time, and they have to be within a certain range of each other. It has to be physically possible. This also applies to choir. It's split into 4 parts: the tenor, alto, bass, and soprano. And these parts are organized by the capabilities of the vocalists themselves. If someone writes for an extreme soprano, something that's not physically possible for a human to sing, that is one of the limitations. For my research assessments, I studied an interview with Michael Giacchino, a major composer in the modern world. He also talks about time management. Because film composers are so pressed for time, they are often churning out an hour to an hour and a half of film every week to 2 weeks. So they have to, film music every week to 2 weeks. They have to be highly dependent on their time management skills and coffee. They also have to take breaks, but whenever opportunity comes up for them, they have to take it, because networking is another skill that's important. If they reject an opportunity to have a job, then their reputation may be ruined. Their reputation is on the line. And in the film industry, reputation is everything. Not only do composers require a specific skill set, but also a long list of tools in order to make their work. They have to work with digital audio workstations, which are a form of interface where they can type notes through a keyboard or an actual MIDI piano in front of them. And that's for synthetic instruments. In real instrumentation, they use orchestras, but orchestras are usually expensive, and for small budget projects, they're just impractical. You never would use an orchestra for a small budget project. So if there's a small budget project, they use all synthesized instruments, which requires a digital audio workstation and a rig, which is comprised of several things. Up here we have several of the popular digital audio workstations that are used in the industry today. The one on the left is Logic Pro, the one in the middle is Pro Tools, and the one on the right is Digital Performer. All of these are used usually and daily by film composers. Now I mentioned a rig. A rig is a very complex setup of computers and hardware, monitors and keyboards, and soundboards that allow for a composer to compose with maximum efficiency. Usually it's comprised of a master computer with the digital audio workstation on it that's connected directly to a MIDI keyboard. This MIDI keyboard is used for note input so that mostly they don't have to think of it, write it down, they can just put it in with the keys. Another thing that it requires is a set of 2 monitors, and these monitors are actually speakers. They have left and right pan, and they have to be sound accurate in order for the composer to know what it's going to sound like in a studio or in real life. Composers never work with earphones. Despite the massive improvements in versatility of virtual music, acoustic instruments are still far better, so they are a Hollywood standard. Most large budget films are instrumented with full piece orchestras. Whenever it seems that music has reached climax in its progression, new styles, methods, and instruments emerge. In 1919, the Russian inventor Leon Theremin invented the theremin. It's an instrument that is played without being touched, and it was the first electronic instrument to be invented. From this, a whole new era of instrumentation has been evolved. Electronic instruments including electric guitars, synths, and now a large variety of sound sampling systems have been created in order to create new sounds for instruments, new sounds allowing for new music. One exciting prospect of composition is the fact that new instruments can be invented at any time. For example, I was talking to, in one of my interviews, to Jim Welch, a composer, and he says that there are instruments that can be made out of everyday objects. For example, he has an instrument that is a drum, and it's made out of a propane tank that has been hollowed out. We have a picture of it over on the right side, and it's painted red and it looks really shiny and pretty, and you'd think that a propane tank wouldn't make a good instrument, but it really does. As the realm of instruments expands, so does the variety of music that they can make possible. So new instruments are very cool things in the world of music. For my original work, I am planning to write a short piece of music to accompany a clip from a nature documentary. I want to do this so that I can sort of take the natural world and make it look beautiful. It already is beautiful. I want to make it seem more beautiful, to dramatize it using the music. I hope to use the Digital Performer software that I have, but because I have limited exposure to this software, I will most likely milk GarageBand for what it's worth. I will watch the clip several times to get the feel for it, and I will establish a tempo. John Hunter, my mentor, gave me a really good way of composing for film. He establishes a bass tempo, and then he breaks it down into segments, and these segments he separates by time signature changes. Now when he does this, this allows for him to line up the music with the important points in the film. So it's easy from there to just write music, because it already works with the rhythm and the time signature changes, so it's pretty much fun after that. I will use mostly software tracks when I'm doing this, but I will more than likely record myself playing French horn so that I can incorporate that real tangible quality of an acoustic instrument that just makes it sound so much better. Through my original work, I will apply the knowledge of composition that I have gained from my interviews and secondary research. I will use my abilities to compose a piece for a nature clip, an original piece which I hope to capture and praise an incredible natural phenomenon that might otherwise be considered ordinary. Through this, I am making the possible seem impossible.